Welcome, Earthlings! Once again, you've reached your psychedelic alternative to pre-chewed political food. And you have the Hippie Conservative, Commander Hip Con, who apparently is tongue-tied today. Maybe it's because of that time that I took off, but I'll tell you what, we'll work it out and untangle this tongue. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. I was gone last week. I apologize for that, but I had my 31st wedding anniversary, and I had to celebrate with my wife, and we planned a week up north, and so I had to go, man. I mean, you got to take care of the family first, right? I mean, I'm all pro family. I wouldn't look very good if I was doing something like that. 31 years of marriage to the most wonderful woman in the world, and I owe her at least that. So, you know, if you guys, when you hear me talking about family and everything else, I think you should realize that, you know, you're not getting advice from somebody that's been through 7 divorces and has 3 illegitimate kids. Okay, you have a guy that's actually raised 3 kids who all still talk to him and has been married to the same woman almost all his life.
They're just waiting for you after your death so they can come out that tell-all book.
That's entirely possible, John. Entirely possible. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot to tell. You know, it would probably be entitled "My Dad, the Constant Pontificator." Nah, it's you know, it's kind of cool that now that my kids have gotten a little older, that they actually you realize that a lot of the stuff you told them they actually listen to. Because when you tell them it when they're young, you get a feeling sometimes like they're just not listening, but sometimes they are. All right, let's talk about some of the things that were going on while I was gone. I didn't get these very organized, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the New York Mosque, and I've got a little story that I want to relay to you guys here about it because I didn't get a chance to catch up on some of that stuff, and I actually got an email from somebody that was asking me in a very polite fashion, and I didn't bring it in, but it was, "Dear Hippie, can you comment on the New York Mosque? I wonder how you felt about it." It's You know, I won't say your name because I hate to have somebody email you and bitch out or something like that. I just wanted to tell you, you know, thanks. That's the very first email that I've gotten where somebody was really civil and actually asked me a question, and that was absolutely great. You can email me at any time at thehc@live.com, thehc@live.com, and I'll respond to you just like I did to that young man. I love questions. I love if you guys got comments that are, you know, civil. Okay, let's talk about this. All right, first I'm going to read you a little story, okay? This is out of Katy, Texas, and this is relevant to the mosque, and I think you guys will understand when I get to it. When an Islamic group moved in next door and told Craig Baker the pigs on his family's 200-year-old Texas farm had to go, he and his swine decided to fight back. In protest of being asked to move, Davis began staging elaborate pig races on Friday afternoons, one of the Islamic world's most holy of days. Craig's neighbors, the Katy Islamic Association, had plans to build a mosque and a community compound on the 11 acres they purchased alongside his farm. What this story omitted, and was in other stories that I read about this, was that the guy sold the property to this guy, and the guy was under false pretenses. He had a realtor buy the property, did not tell him there was going to be an Islamic mosque next to him. So that's a little shady, okay? Baker, but you know, I suppose you know, if I'm buying property from somebody, do I really need to tell them what I'm going to do with it? As long as I follow the zoning rules and everything else, you know, it would have been polite. And this is what this is all about, polite. Baker, 46, a stone shop owner whose family has owned the farm for 2 centuries, says the association knew about the pigs when they brought the property, and it's not fair for them to ask them to get rid of the animals. I am just defending my rights and my property, Baker said. They totally disrespect me and my family. Initially, Baker and Camille Fota, the president of the 500-member Islamic Association, were on good terms, but things turned sour at a town meeting where Baker says Fota insulted him by asking him to move. That was the last straw for me, calling me a liar, especially in front of 300 or 400 people at the meeting. Mr. Fota said it would be a good idea if I considered packing up my stuff and moving further out into the country. Fota says his group has plans to construct the mosque because the others in the Houston area don't provide the kind of environment they're looking for. We feel that these mosques are not fulfilling the needs of the community as they should, so our vision is to have integrity and integrated facility. He said the pig races no longer bother him or his members, but then they're going to go ahead with their plans to create the mosque. Muslims do not hate pigs, he added. We just don't eat them. Neighbors have shown support for Baker's races, even coming in the pouring rain and giving donations ranging from 100 to 1,000 to sponsor the events. They attended 100 different pig races, and many say they don't want the mosque either. Some fear it will be out of place and hurt their property values. All right. Now, what's the comparison between this and the New York mosque? What this guy is doing, he's saying that it has nothing to do with the guy, and he's running these pig races around it. And he's also serving, of all things, pork on a stick. And he's doing it on purpose all around the fence of the mosque. So this is, this is atypical of what happens in America, that people get into a property dispute or something else, and then they do something like this. And he's claiming, this guy, that he's not doing it directly to insult the Muslim community or anything else. He's making it sound like a personal effort, but it's not. But is he within his rights? Yes. Does he own that pig farm? Yes. Can he run pig races? Yes. He can do all those things. Is he being a bit of an asshole and pretending, John shaking his head no, and pretending that he's not, in my humble opinion, yeah, because he's doing this on purpose, right? I mean, come on. We all know that he's doing this on purpose.
If they don't like it, they can move.
Well, that's absolutely true.
He's been there longer. I mean, I get tired of the suburbanites moving out an area where they got country, like the farms out there for hundreds of years or 150 years.
I know.
And they whine and complain about the smell of the fertilizer and the smell of the cows. Well, you idiots, you've moved out to the country.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree with you 100% on that one, dude. I absolutely, because I live out in a little farming community, and no sooner did I get out there, and oddly enough, there was a pig farm, and a lot of people started moving in. I was one of the very first houses on the block that wasn't a farm. And as soon as they moved in, the first thing they did was start a petition to get rid of the pig farm. And it'd been there 100 years. And this wonderful family, Malone's, they actually had to stop their pig farm. They said they were violating some, I don't know, some smell ordinance or something like that. And then they actually went so far as, that's a long drawn out story, but they went so far as to take over the city council and everything in order to get the township council, in order to get this guy shut down. And you're right, that's bullshit. It's been a farming community for 100 years. This guy's been raising pigs for 100 years. So the wind shifted. But that's your fault. That's your fault. Usually when you buy property, you buy your property, you look around, you see what you got, you see what kind of neighbors you got. But here's the point, is that this guy that's building this mosque in New York is doing relatively the same thing. And for you liberals that think that this guy's an asshole, and you don't think that the guy that Iman Rolf, who's building this mosque, right, I mean, it's not right on the property, but it is very, very close. And he's doing it disrespectfully. The guy is not being respectful. If he really wants the people in New York City to be more accepting of Muslims, then he shouldn't poke these people in the eye. It's just not good graces. It's not being a good neighbor. And that's pretty much the way I feel about it. And I just want to show you guys real quick. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if we can get up in the camera. That's the diagram of Ground Zero. And up there in the corner, let's see, right there by my finger, which is clearly 2 blocks away, is the proposed mosque site. So, it's not on Ground Zero. And I want to bring that up because I've heard, on the other side of the coin, I've heard some of the conservatives, and they've repeatedly said on Ground Zero. And what they're using to make it sound like it's on Ground Zero, they're saying they're using the debris field. So, like one screw falls within, 400 yards away or a mile away or whatever in their world, then that's Ground Zero. And it's a little deceptive, okay? So they're being a little bit, and that's the main thing that I do here. I'm trying to get you guys to understand that your media, and I'm talking about whether you're listening to Sean or you're listening to Keith Olbermann, it doesn't really matter. They are trying to prove their point, and they're trying to stretch their point. I'm not faulting them for it. Okay, they're trying to prove their point. They're trying to stress their point, and a lot of times they manipulate small little facts like that just to make it sound a little bit worse than it was. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this Iman Roth is an asshole. I'm not going to cut it. I mean, the guy he's thumbing the nose of the people that feel very, very sensitive about that. And he really doesn't care. And is he within his rights? Yes. Is the zoning ordinances and everything else in New York City allow him to do it? Yes. So he has the right to do it. Should he do it? No, he should not. Okay, I just wanted to bring that one up really quick. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the 14th Amendment, because I bring up the 14th Amendment quite often. Okay, you know, and I am with John Bonner, who's the minority speaker for the House, who's saying, you know, for the Republicans, who's saying that he wants to change the 14th Amendment. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you guys, this ain't going to happen. It ain't ever going to happen because it takes 2/3 of a vote. However, the 14th Amendment, when the 14th Amendment was passed, it was passed, you know, for a lot of not exactly legitimate reasons. Okay, it's known as the citizenship clause of it, and we've talked about this. Also called the naturalization clause, refers to the Section 1 of the 14th Amendment of the United States. This clause represented Congress's reversal of the portion of the Dred Scott versus Sanford decision that declared that African Americans were not and could not become citizens of the United States or enjoy the privileges and immunities of citizenship. Now, this is real important, okay, because this is what the liberals point at all the time, that, you know, okay, everything that you disagree with now in this present political race baiting climate seems to revolve around the fact that if I don't like something, I'm a bigot. And I mean, trust me, I've already got emails on it calling me a bigot over this. But let's point out something else, okay? Some other points of it, because there's a part of it that the liberals didn't tell you about. And that's the part where what they actually did was they had this naturalization as a lure to bring in Chinese immigrants that they wanted to use to build the Transcontinental Railroad. Now, they didn't bring that up. Now, a lot of you liberals out there point at the Transcontinental Railroad as indentured servitude. But the 14th Amendment, this very clause, was put in there to lure them into the indentured servitude. A little bit weird there. See, the 14th Amendment, the Civil Rights Act of 1866 had already granted U.S. citizens to persons born in the United States not subject to any foreign power. So then after that, they decided that really didn't give black people, you know, everything that they needed. So then in 1868, 2 years later, they ratified the naturalization clause to give African American people the same rights to naturalization to become U.S. citizens that everybody else had. But what they also did was they used this to bring in the Chinese laborers. The first Chinese workers were hired in 1865. Ooh, a little coincidence there. 1865, they started hiring them. 1868, they started giving them the naturalization, so it was like a reward for them coming in there. By 1868, the year that it was ratified, 4,000 workers, 2/3 of which were Chinese, were working on the Transcontinental Railroad. On May 10th, 1869, the railroad was connected. By 1870, the U.S. became hasty exploration of gold mines. By 1880, a fifth of Chinese workers were engaged as domestic servants. 10th of them were laundry workers. Probably 30,000 Chinese worked outside of California in trades, dangerous trades, including mining, common labor. During the 1860s, 10,000 Chinese were said to be involved in the building of the western leg of the Central Pacific Railroad. The average railroad payroll for them was $35 a month. Cost of food was $15 to $18 a month plus shelter. So they were basically in servitude. They'd go there, they think they were making $35 a month, but by the time they got done deducting their food and everything else, they didn't make any money. That's why it was called indentured servitude.
Still a better deal than they got back in homeland China.
Well, obviously, obviously, and you know, and the Chinese, but you have to understand the lure that they used was this naturalization process. And yeah, you're right, absolutely, it was a good deal for them. Because in the end, they and their children got to become U.S. citizens. But you have to understand that that's the important thing about this. You have to understand the history of it. You know, this wasn't done so that, you know, so that immigrants coming into this country necessarily would become naturalized. It wasn't done only so that the black people that really didn't get naturalized into society, you know, by 1868, it was actually done so they could bring in the Chinese people, and that's really important. Okay. So here's the other part, and you know, for you liberals, I want you to you don't want me to rewrite this. You don't want me and John Bonner to have our way to rewrite this, but I want to point out this. one of the things that it excluded from citizenship, children born to Native Americans, specifically banned, and who are members of the tribes, not taxed, were specifically banned from being U.S. citizens in the 14th Amendment, Section 1. Does that sound a little racist to you guys? The Chinese and the indentured servitude and the Native Americans being banned. But the only thing you hear from the liberal networks is how it was originally done to bring African Americans in. But they skipped the other two parts. Very convenient, you see? Okay. And it should be pointed out that they were later given full citizenship in the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924. 1924. Would you guys like to repeal that? I didn't think so. But, now I mean the 1924. But the 14th Amendment, Section 1, we need to revisit it. Let's look at it. I don't think that there's anything wrong with telling people that if both of you are here illegally and you have a child, that you cannot have that child be a legal citizen. This argument that some of the liberals make that somehow breaking up families, and it would be but keep in mind, hyperextend that philosophy, hyperextend that to say that we can't enforce laws in this country if it breaks up families. Well, if that's true, you can't. I mean, I know it's not a fair comparison, but you can't arrest anybody for rape. You can't arrest anybody for car theft. You can't arrest anybody for anything if it breaks up the family. You're taking the father out. Maybe if it's a single mother. If the single mother is the only parent that kid has, are you giving them carte blanche that they can do anything that they want whatsoever? It's illegal to enter this country. Why have borders? Why have borders? Why have laws if somebody can break the law and as soon as they drop a kid, they're immune from them? That doesn't make any sense. We have to revisit this. I mean, okay, that's my little rant on the 14th Amendment. But I just wanted to point that out because I was doing some research on it. I came up with it and I thought, ha, 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 ha. All right, now, recently there's been some serious activity with the Michigan Tea Party. Now, this is great. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick swallow of water before I get into this thing, because for those of you that don't know, there's some serious crap going on here in Michigan, and it shouldn't surprise anybody. Now, a while back ago, when I was doing a different radio show with John, I had a conversation with a couple black friends of mine on air, and we were talking about how they didn't get to vote for Barack Obama because there was manipulation of the vote. What they did, in a nutshell, and I'll keep it short, is they kind of blocked Barack Obama. They kind of forced him out because he had no choice. It was either drop out of Iowa and New Hampshire, which meant for sure he wasn't going to stand a chance against Hillary Clinton, or drop out of Michigan and Florida. And if any of you want a further explanation, you can go look it up. But anyway, what happened was he got removed from the ballot here in Michigan. And so black people who got their first chance to vote in the primary election for a serious black candidate that had a chance, Barack Obama, however you feel about him, that it ended up that they couldn't vote in Michigan or Florida for him, thereby guaranteeing Hillary Clinton a win in the primary coming out so she could recapture her momentum. And it almost worked. That, my friends, is called fixing an election. That's not the kind of thing that we should stand for. Of all the things that get me fiery, face red mad, it's when I see these manipulation of elections in a way that'll make sure that the election is geared towards somebody. Because, I mean, obviously, you got a Super Tuesday. Hillary Clinton comes out of it, got her little butt kicked. She didn't expect it. She didn't have another plan. Obama's caucus plan, derived by David Axelrod and David Plouffe, who did a brilliant job. I call them the two Davids. And they did a great job of busting down Hillary Clinton's machinery. She thought for sure she could get all of Super Tuesday, wrap up the election, start slandering the Republican Party before the election ever got underway, and guarantee herself getting into the presidential election. This is a nomination to run it at the very least, and then possibly win the election. Now, that fell apart after Barack Obama made a decent showing in Super Tuesday, and she didn't have a lock on it. But she didn't have a backup plan, which to me demonstrates once again that Hillary's not the genius that everybody's given her credit for. And one of these days we'll go over just what a crappy Secretary of State she's been. By the way, just ask yourself one question really quick, one little quick tangent. When have you seen Hillary Clinton, since she's been Secretary of State, answer one single question from the press? Not one. Not one. With the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the problems with Iran's nuclear weapon, the problems in with Israel, everything else. Have you ever seen? Think of Henry Kissinger. For those of you that are old enough to remember Henry Kissinger, I would see Henry Kissinger on my TV almost daily, answering questions about different stuff. Now we got Alexander Haig. Now we got a woman that doesn't feel she should even answer at all.
And Henry Kissinger is uglier than Hillary.
Oh, way uglier. he was a frightening guy. Henry Kissinger was kind of, I don't know. I don't want to get too much into Henry Kissinger. Let's get back to the Tea Party, because this is what I'm trying to focus on. These people that started this Tea Party, and it actually started this reclusive leader that apparently won't talk to anybody about putting these Tea Party candidates. The first thing that you guys need to know is the Tea Party candidates that are going to be on your ballot if this goes forward. Now, I'll explain all of that and how it may or may not go forward, and how Jennifer Granholm is right now trying to fix this election so that they can get the Tea Party candidates on this that are not Tea Partiers at all. And she wants to put them on the ballot to split the vote for the Republican Party. This is a very old hat political trick, by the way. And they want to split the vote on it, get some of the Tea Parties errantly voting for this phantom Tea Party that doesn't have anything to do with the Tea Partiers that you guys are thinking of, and then divide the vote up. Now, this guy, this Mark Stefik, who's a retired UAW shop steward, okay, now, let me ask you guys something. And the union members out there, I'm an Ask Me member. I've been a Teamster. I've been a UAW member. I have never met in my life a UAW shop steward that was a Republican. Never. Never. There are no such things. I mean, there might be one. There might be a couple, some guy that's hiding, but I'm telling you, the vast majority of them are Democrat. He agreed to a telephone interview after weeks of avoiding the media. Why if you're a Tea Party candidate, and you're a Tea Party leader, and you're trying to organize, if you're doing anything, I mean, I just interviewed Judy Zabik, a wonderful person who's running for Genesee County Treasurer, and I invite all you guys to take a good long look at her, because she was a great guest, a great person. She would come on my show just to get any media attention at all. I mean, she's fighting to get her name recognition out there against somebody that has far more name recognition, which is Debbie Cherry, which is part of the Cherry dynasty, John Cherry, who is now our lieutenant governor. And guys, you know how I feel about these dynasties. I don't like them at all. That's not the way it's supposed to be. But the point is, if this guy really wanted to promote his candidates, why would he be avoiding the media? You don't avoid the media. You go out and seek out the media the way Judy's seeking out the media right now to try to get anything that she can get to get her name recognition out there. And, this guy's avoiding the media. Well, I'll tell you why. He doesn't want to answer questions about about how he created this Tea Party. Okay, he operated out of his home in the Thumb area. He submitted 60,000 petition signatures. I want you guys to keep in mind, okay, what if I was running the Republican Party with a K? Put a K on the K-A-N instead of a C-A-N. And I went around and I told people, how would you like to sign for, the Hippie Conservative in the Republican Party, running as a Republican? And you signed a petition, and you're a Republican, a staunch Republican, and you just didn't notice the K instead of the C. Maybe I made it really small. And you didn't notice that. And I told you it was a Republican Party. Wouldn't you feel deceived? Wouldn't you feel a little bit like that was not a legitimate effort to get your signature? This happens a lot where people where the Secretary of State will not validate the signatures, and frankly, the Secretary of State should not have validated any of this. So it ended up going. Here's the short on it. It ended up going in front of the Michigan Supreme Court. And the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that it was invalid. Now, your left stream media has been telling you that the reason that they took that out is because when they put on the Tea Party, because, I mean, obviously, there's got to be a section where they look at it and they say, okay, what's the name of your group? So in order to stipulate what the name of the group is, you have to put the name of the group in 25-point font. So that way it's bigger than the rest, and it's an exact amount, and then that way they can see that that's the name of your party. When they put on it, "the" was written in small letters. That's because they purposely wanted to deceive you into thinking it was Tea Party, not the Tea Party, which is a different entity. So they lost that. The Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to do this because, you know, the Tea Party's already taken over. They've already established themselves, and they're not running any candidates. And you're called the Tea Party, but you put it in the wrong font. You have to put it in 25-point font, otherwise you won't be able to. Second point, which you're not hearing from your left stream media, is that they said that it was done in a deceptive fashion, and that they wouldn't validate the signatures, meaning the Supreme Court, because they felt it was deceptive. And the people that signed the petition thought they were signing for the Tea Party, which I would assume also that they were. This is so infuriating. People, you can see what they're doing, right? You can see it's just deception. I mean, whether you're a Tea Party supporter or you're not a Tea Party supporter, throw that out. Throw that out. Don't get distracted here. Stay focused. You want an honest election. You want to vote for somebody that you think you're voting for. If you wanted to vote for Barack Obama, you don't want somebody that's Barack Obama with 2 R's and you sitting right next to Barack Obama. And then you go in there, how the hell does he spell his name? I'm not really sure. I think it's with 2 R's. That's not what you want. You're in a democracy. You want clarity. You want transparency. You want to know that what you're voting for is what you're voting for. You don't want something that says if you don't want them to not pass this bill, so that it's a double negative, and you're sitting and read it like, whoa, does that mean I do or I don't? You want clarity. So they struck it down. Okay. Now enter Jennifer Buffy the Job Killer Granholm, who's being term limited and on her way out. Now, I tried to find out why this guy left, but one of the Supreme Court justices decided he was going to step down a week after they came out with this decision. This guy steps down. Immediately, they go and put this guy in that's very liberal. Jennifer Granholm handpicks this guy, puts him right into the Supreme Court after this guy leaves, who, by the way, was one of the guys that voted 5-4, so he was one of the 5 that voted for this guy, for this petition to be invalidated. So now the Tea Party goes back and tries to get revalidated, and they're appealing back to the same Supreme Court, who's now going to hear the case with the new person put in by Jennifer Granholm. Wow. How shady is that? And, you know, and somebody, there's no media out there that does anything here in Michigan. We got one guy, Brian Dickinson with the Detroit Free Press, is the only guy with any freaking balls that's willing to look at Jennifer Granholm's record, willing to call her out and say the queen has no clothes, willing to look at what she's done, and, you know, excusing herself for 8 years for the prior administration. Who the hell gives anybody 8 years? Nobody. But unfortunately, the left stream, politically controlled aristocracy, has got the media under their thumb, and nobody in this state has the balls to call Jennifer Granholm out. And now, after what she did in the election with Barack Obama, which is try to fix for Hillary Clinton, now she turns around and is trying to fix the election again so that she can get one of her buddies. People, you don't want your people in the government fixing elections like this. This is a very, 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 very bad thing. This is like Blagojevich, you know, and his little paid-off person that was on the jury. 11 people that agreed on all 23 counts. One person that wouldn't agree on anything but one stupid count about maybe he might have fibbed a little bit, and he gets 6 months probation for trying to sell a Senate seat. 11 people. One person stands completely out. Says they will not. Every one of the other jurors came forward and said, hey, look, you know, there was one standout, one person that absolutely would not bend, no matter the degree of the evidence. And if our media was doing the proper job on that, they'd be looking at who that person was. I know we have anonymity when it comes to jurors, and I understand that sometimes that's important to have. But when you have one person that clearly is looking a little bit like they're bought off, if we can't protect people, you know, from selling Senate seats, from selling House seats openly, if we can't make sure that these people are legitimate, that they don't just create some dynasty, some aristocracy that they hold on to forever, You know, Mark Stein on the Rush Limbaugh show made a great point today. We've had senators, you know, whether you're talking about Robert Byrd, who did 9 terms, or Strom Thurmond on the other side. So I'll be fair, on the Republican side, who died at 100 years old and had to be propped up in his damn seat. You have people that are serving longer than Fidel Castro's been in office, longer than Kim Jong-il has been holding his dictatorship. That's what you're getting in your U.S. Senate, your United States Senate. Because you have things like this are going on. Election fixing. I mean, I'm not talking about some bullshit that the Democratic Party has, that one ballot malfunction in a 5th district in Chicago. And you people get upset about that. And these people are openly selling Senate seats. These people are openly trying to arrange an election where you think you're voting for a Tea Party candidate and it ain't, and the guy has nothing to do with the Tea Party and he used to work for the Democratic Party. This Mark Stefik, who apparently the media is disinterested in interviewing. You know, this is the kind of thing that all of us should be upset about. This is the kind of thing that we have to make sure that we stop. All right. But, you know, when you guys go to the polls and you see the Tea Party there, I want you guys to remember, that's not the Tea Party, okay? The Tea Party is running no candidate that I'm aware of. And these people are running 23, I believe it is. And they're trying to divide the vote on every one of them. And this is not something you should have. All right. The pornification of the United States. Yeah. Well, John's smiling, but it would be a good thing. But it's not, because they're using prostitutes. And I love that word. I stole it from Laura Ingraham, by the way. I'm not trying to pretend like I made that up, but I love the word prostitute. And you know, I've talked to you guys many times about the way that they're trying to sexualize our kids. And I know a lot of people think I'm off base on this one, but I'm telling you, these people never go away after they're done with the gay agenda thing. And I'm not trying to attach pedophilia to homosexuality. Not one has nothing to do with the other, okay? The point is that when these advocacy groups form, and I don't give a damn who they are, and you can look at any of them, whether it's Mothers Against Drunk Driving or, you know, the Golden Eagle Patriot PAC, whatever you look at, when you look at these people, they never go away. They achieve their goals. They move on to another goal. And the reason is I formed this big organization. I get this building. Now I'm a CEO, and I got a treasurer, and I got a budget, and I got money that comes in, and I meet senators, and I meet congressmen, and I meet the press, and I get all this set up. So I have a whole infrastructure, a whole bureaucracy how I can run. And then I get the goal that I'm after. I get tougher drunk driving laws, for instance. And by the way, the woman that started MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, she doesn't have anything to do with them anymore. She achieved what she wanted to do and left. But the rest of the people, they're not leaving. And that's the same thing with this gay agenda people. They're not going to leave after they're done. Remember, a lot of them are old hippies that believed very staunchly in the civil rights movement, which, you know, I agree with, women's suffrage and everything else. They achieved a lot of very good things. But the thing is, they're running out of issues. And the next issue that these guys are going to have, and it's going to be supported by Hollywood. And if you don't believe me, just watch the latest Dakota Fanning movie, you know, and look at how they take these kids and they try to, you know, and no matter how clean the show is, they try to, you know, put them in short skirts. They try to, you know, have them half naked. Look at the Naked Brothers band, for God's sakes, and 8 and 10-year-old kids walking around without their shirts on. You know, why do you think this is all being done? Look at the Roman Polanski thing that I brought up to you, where, you know, over 100 people in Hollywood signed that this guy should be released. Would they have released that guy if it was a priest? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, Christine Hobbs, a 42-year-old mother from Livermore, California, is accused of sending cell phone photos of herself nude to 2 teenage boys. In a hotel in December 2009, police claim she started an affair with one. She was dubbed the Hobbs Hummer Mom. A Hummer. Now, when I grew up, a Hummer was when a girl went, you know, while she was filleting you. So I doubt very much if I was molesting kids. But let me read this next paragraph so you'll understand. Police said that she had an affair going on with a young boy that started in 2008. The mother of the year candidate. Mother of the year candidate? I didn't even read that part before.
I hope they're being ironic.
It says the mother of the year candidate, Hobbs, is accused of driving her Hummer around Livermore while a 10-year-old boy shot a BB gun out of her window at various targets at various locations around the city. No one has been hurt, but the CB5 crime watch revealed she's also charged with discharge of a BB gun, contributing to a minor. I don't really care about that. She's been married for 20 years, and she's having an affair with it says here, a 13-year-old boy. This is a teacher. Now, if you want to see, honest people, if you want to see how bad this is, type in the Hippie Conservative, hippie with an IE, not a Y, and go to my blog site. And there's an article that I wrote called Dora the Explorer. Or wait, I'm sorry. Not Dora the Explorer, Dora the Horror. And on it, there's a link that's to all the women, teachers, last year that had affairs with their students. Women teachers, all of them. And it lists all of them. And coincidentally, all the ones that made the news, oh, gee, look at, they're all hot and shit. Oh, man, wouldn't you like to be that kid? You know, blah, blah, blah. That's a bad. Why are they doing this? And the other thing is, if it was me or John or anybody else, some of you guys out there, if you were a teacher and you slept with a 12, 13-year-old girl, they'd be frog marching your ass out in handcuffs and shackles. Every one of you guys, if you think about these things that you see, whenever you see these teachers, what do they look like? They look like they just stepped out of a damn day spa. They always are all decked out. They want them to look hot. You know why? Because in our society, it's more acceptable for a woman to molest a boy. You all know this is true. When you hear about a boy getting molested by his teacher, especially if he's hot, come on, guys. What do? All right? We go, hey, lucky kid. I wish I had a teacher like that. Don't we? We all do it. Hollywood knows this is more acceptable to us. It's part of the path of normalizing adult-child sex. And this is part of what they're already doing. How did they normalize homosexuality? 20 years ago, homosexuality was seen as aberrant behavior. Now it's totally accepted. Will and Grace. All these other programs where they bring out, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. The point is to normalize something. And like I said, I'm not drawing any comparisons between pedophilia and homosexuality. I have lots of homosexual friends that are great people, okay? They're not, doing anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. The point is they exercise their power in the media to normalize something. And now they're trying to normalize child-adult sex. And they're using these mothers, these examples. These are teachers. Keep in mind, you're paying these people. You're paying them. Do you really pay your teachers to have sex with your 13-year-old boy's mother? Mothers out there? Can I hear you? I don't think you are. Do you think it's acceptable? You think it's not going to kind of screw your kid up a little bit? You can say that it's society. Use the relativism. But as it stands right now, those kids are going to think there's something wrong with them. And sometimes having too much sexual behavior like that can lead to other problems, like out-of-birth children. But the Democratic Party doesn't care because you have out of wedlock births to children. Those are single mothers. Single mothers voted for Barack Obama 67%, as I pointed out. The more single mothers there are, the more people vote Democrat. You might think that's a conspiracy theory, but when these guys are crunching down numbers, hell, Kyle Rove was crunching down numbers to move 2 to 3% of the black population and Hispanic population into George Bush's aisle. You don't think that they look at 67% of the people that are voting for Democrats, the single mothers? You don't think that they would say, maybe we don't discourage this. Maybe we'll just turn, we're not going to come out and say, hey, we think everybody should be a single mom. What we will do is we'll align ourselves with single mothers. We won't pursue this. We'll normalize it. And this is part of what they do. Go on my website. If you type in the Hippie Conservative, Google it. You'll see lots of things. And you can go down to my website, my blog, and you go on there and go on to Dora the Explorer. You will be shocked. Page after page after page after page after page of these women. And the one thing that'll stand out in your mind is the pictures in them. Now, there's a couple in there that apparently some judge had a little bit of frickin' sense, and he, made him wear the orange and look a little bit more. But for the vast majority of them, I'm going to tell you, folks, you'd be hard-pressed to find male teachers that they're treating like that they're called the Hummer Mom. I'm sure I'd be called the Dandy Diddling Daddy or some shit. Yeah, I doubt that very damn much. But that's because they know that this is more socially acceptable. I don't think it's an accident. Like I said, I don't usually deal in conspiracy theories. But all right, I want to talk a little bit about Barack Obama's speech on Iraq. Yeah. This is another thing. Okay, I want to point this out really quick. This is the very opening line of Barack Obama's speech. Good evening. Tonight I'd like to talk to you about the end of our combat mission in Iraq, the ongoing security challenges we face, and the need to rebuild our nation here at home. First line, the end of our combat mission in Iraq. Now, first off, we're leaving 49.5 thousand people in Iraq, almost 50,000 people that are going to be staying there. Now it's the end of combat, right? That's the line they're using. The end of combat. So, finally, one of the media actually asked, but you got to put this together. One of the media actually asked Robert Gates, who's the press secretary for Barack Obama, and asked him, well, does that mean these guys won't be getting combat pay? The guys that remain. If it ended today, we're no longer have a combat mission, do the guys get combat pay? Answer from Robert Gates, yes, they do. How do you get combat pay if it's the end of the combat mission? This is just a process of redefining. Okay, that's all that is redefining. Those people are still in combat. You have 4,400 approximately brave, outstanding young soldiers that have died in that place already, and there's going to be more. For Barack Obama to stand there and pretend like suddenly the war's over, let's all go home, let's throw a party, is blatant bullshit. And by the way, this is the same Barack Obama who badmouthed the surge. The same Barack Obama who didn't think it would work, who thought Iraq was a losing war. Question, if Iran, now, I want you guys to put yourself in the place. Now, I've explained before, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran, does not run Iran. Okay, he's a mouthpiece. He's a snake. He's a mouthpiece for the Ayatollahs and the imams that run it. But the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini, in Iran, runs that country. He doesn't speak to nobody. He doesn't give any press or nothing like that. But he tells his little puppet, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, what to say and what to do. If you're the Ayatollah Khomeini right now, and you're looking out at all these troops that are leaving in there, and remember, Persia is the main goal of Iran. Persia was an empire that existed a long time ago that stretched all the way to the Euphrates. And Iran has been living this dream of unifying. That's what the Iraq-Iran war was about. Unifying Persia back to where it was. Those people in Iran's eyes that live from the Iranian border into Iraq all the way to the Euphrates are Persians. Despite the settlements, you don't hear that word, do you? Because nobody ever talked about the settlements. It's always so bad when Israel puts their settlements in, and we can have a discussion about whether or not that's bad. Because but they don't talk about when the Russians do it in Ukraine. They don't talk about when they do it in Georgia, or Chechnya. They don't talk about when Saddam would push the Shias as a buffer between him and the Sunnis and the Baathists. But if you're the Ayatollah and you're looking at that, what do you people think the odds are that Barack Obama, if Iran suddenly starts pushing across that border into Iraq, and tries to take back Persia? What do you think the odds are that Barack Obama is now going to come into Iraq and have a full-scale war with Iran? What would you say the odds are, John?
Very little.
Very little. Zero. And that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. If I'm the Ayatollah right now, I'm rubbing my hands together. And I'm thinking to myself, this is gonna go. Now, there's two ways to look at this, though. Two ways to look at it. Number one, Barack Obama just doesn't care. He's willing to give it up. He's willing to give it up. And then he's going to blame it on George Bush. It was a loser to begin with. It's a loser now. See, the surge didn't work. They were just biding their time.
He's got a way of blaming Bush for the economy, so why not that?
Yeah, well, he did have Jennifer Granholm as one of his chief economic advisors. So I can't imagine why you would take the state with the very lowest unemployment and then use her for an economic advisor. I think that in actuality, he wanted to learn how to manipulate the media and how to blame the past administration for 8 years.
I don't want to get too far off track, but Clinton one time was talking about the economic successes administration was enjoying, and he was enumerating the states that were enjoying an economic boom. And this is don't forget this, like early in the 1990s, and all the states he named had Republican governors.
There's a serious connection to that, and we should. We'll you know what? We'll get into that whole thing one day. But oddly enough, I read a Paul Krugman. Paul Krugman. Paul Krugman's the left. That's their Keynesian economist, and they always parade him around. As being he's a Nobel Peace Prize even winner or laureate. I'm not really sure. But he was one of the two, and they always parade this guy around as some kind of a genius, even though almost every other economist on the planet thinks he's a complete nut job. Along with Larry Summers, by the way, which I'd like to talk. I'm going to talk about Larry Summers just for a brief second here, but Paul Krugman, back after the Reagan expansion, actually came out and said that the only reason why Reagan had that much expansion after it was because the hole was so deep. In other words, of course Reagan had a great run. Look at how bad it was. It could only get better. Now that same Paul Krugman is saying that, of course, Obama can't recover because the hole's too deep.
And Obama's stimulus money probably digging us even deeper.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I got a cute little stat on that one too. Just so you know. Now, if it turns around, okay, I'll give Obama the benefit of the doubt. I give him full 2 years because it took Reagan 2 years to turn it around. But I just want to point out something. All the total tax cuts that Ron Reagan gave totaled $275 billion. So far, Barack Obama has spent over $1.3 trillion and growing. And that's not counting the TARP funds, which nobody tax on because that was passed under the Bush administration, but most of it is being doled out by Timothy Geithner under the Obama administration. When Bush had left, 787, and I'm not making wait, I'm not making any excuse for the Republicans, okay? Let's not forget what happened before under their watch. They can't really wash their hands of that. In the 18 years prior, they ran the House, the Senate, or the presidency 2 out of the 3 for 16 out of 18 years. And people think about it. What was the mantra during those whole 18 years? Deregulate, deregulate, deregulate. So even if you can blame, and trust me, there's a lot of blame on the Democratic side too. And I've had quite a few rants on this sitting right here about Chris Dodd and Barney Frank, who I think both should be, at the very least thrown out of their positions, at the very least. However, to walk away from what the Republicans did, I think is showing a little bit of amnesia on our part. Okay, so let's not forget that. But however, so I'm going to give him 2 years because you can't say that Jimmy Carter didn't screw up things for Reagan. My God. Of course he did. But the point is, by the time you get done adding the TARP funds, by the time you get done with the Recovery Act, by the time you get done with all the other stimulus that Barack Obama's put in, you're talking almost $2 trillion. If after 2 years, and I'll give him the 2 years, and that's gonna come January 20th, this economy still hasn't turned around. We spent $2 trillion instead of, in today's dollars, probably $500 million or $500 billion instead of $500 billion. A quarter. You could argue that that's a far worse situation. I would argue with you that it's not. But the point is Reagan turned it around, and we have to watch this. Now, there's an argument about the middle class tax cuts that I'd like to have another time too. But the point is, this should put an end to the Keynesian theory that we can have bottom side economics. The bottom side doesn't create any jobs, folks. I'm a big union supporter. I'm a big middle class supporter. I'm a big fan of the working man. I'm an old school Walter Reuther Democrat, which isn't even a Democrat anymore. I don't even know what the hell to call myself anymore. I'm an independent. There's the only name that I can come up with. But when it comes down to it, the fact of the matter is, Obama does not understand. In his speech, he tried to say that we're going to go out of this war, which is hindering our economy, and we're going to turn the economy around. Folks, I don't have any faith that he knows how to do that. I don't. He's got Larry Summers is his chief economic advisor. Larry Summers is another Keynesian. He used to be a and by the way, that's a guy that came up with an economic theory of this bottom side economics, kind of just almost like socialist economics, I would say. He's a guy that was, and everybody walks past this. Larry Summers, he's a guy that was thrown out of Harvard as a Harvard president. And guess why? Okay, they had a meeting, and they were talking about, and this is at Harvard, and this is when Larry Summers was the president of Harvard, and they were having a meeting with some of the women activists that were on campus, and they were talking about how, there was some kind of systemic sexism that was keeping women out of math classes, engineering classes, and architectural classes. And Larry Summers had the audacity to stand there and say, well, maybe women just aren't interested in them fields. And for that statement, Larry Summers was run out by the same academia that loves Barack Obama. So I would like to ask the question, if this was a Republican and he wasn't good enough to be the president of a university, how can he be Barack Obama's chief economic advisor? And everybody suddenly forgot that he's a sexist? Or is it okay?
We both know how hard it is to run a college, don't we?
Oh,
Right?
Yeah, both me and John. I work at a major university right now, and John used to work with me. That's actually how I met John. And look, there's no comparison. No comparison between running the free world and running a freaking university. That's just that's nothing alike, nothing whatsoever. In fact, it's almost a separate reality. It's really kind of cool working at a university because you get to see a lot of the things. You get to see how the youth. I love working with it. I love the fact that I have some great professors. But I'm gonna tell you right now, they live in a separate world. It ain't the world me and you live in at all. And I would, and seriously, people, before you send your kids, and I'm not trying to discourage you from sending your kids to a university. It depends on what you want from your university. It depends on the individual university. But parents, before you go chucking that $40,000-$50,000 into that university, I advise you look that university over really good and find out what kind of ideology they're pumping into your kid's head, because there is an awful lot of stuff that goes on, and it's being done. You should actually look at the curriculum in a lot of the classes, see how it's outlined, make sure that you remember that these guys are being extremely shady about what they put in those curriculums, because they're firing professors if they don't adhere to the curriculum, which the curriculum may say something as that seemingly benign but very nefarious, as you can't invoke God into theology. What? How in the hell do you not invoke God into theology or philosophy? I'll give you guys, they're the more liberal, the progressive, that you don't want God in your science class. Okay, let's throw that out. Okay, I'll agree with you. I mean, I might have some minor debates with it, but let's throw it out. You don't want God in theology? You don't want God in philosophy? Holy crap.
Yeah, theology means study of God. So.
I know, but, yes. How can you even do that? And what other? I mean, John's great at philosophy. Can you imagine a philosophy class without debating the existence of God?
Certain types, like analytics philosophy, which about that stuff, you could avoid it. But
right,
basically, all the questions come about what morality and stuff. Your pre-Socratic, and that's definitely connected to God or gods in the lowercase. For
right.
So it's be awful difficult to say that.
Yes.
To do that.
Well, and certainly, I don't think anybody would think that that's the kind of thing that you would want to completely remove. I mean, that's just amazing. But I'm going to tell you, Obama's making a real. He's rolling the dice on this, because if this thing falls apart anytime within the next year, there's going to be a serious debate on whether he left too early and whether we should have waited. And by the way, I do think he did a little bit of a hat tip to Bush. He said he called him, and told him that congratulations or whatever. But, he fell way short of retracting his statement that the surge wasn't going to work. And the surge did work. Okay, now what are What are they? We're gonna as we're getting closer, folks. We're 2 months, and I know and me being a political junkie like I am, a political pythia. If you look at the election that's coming up, we got 2 months before the midterms, and I'm already predicting, and I know I'm way out right now. So then you can't ever say that the Republicans can't blow this thing. All right, but however, right now I just looked at a most recent Gallup poll, and from just July 15th to now, it went from 44% of people in a generic ballot for Congress midterm elections said they were going to vote for a Democrat, and 49 for the Republicans. It's now jumped up to 41% for the Democratic candidate and 51%. Now it's gone from 5-point spread to a 10-point spread. It has doubled the spread in just the past month and a week. That's very, very bad news for the Democratic Party. If nothing else changes, things are going to really fall apart for the Democratic Party. I think we're going to see a major shift a la 1994, where you saw both houses flip. The Senate, I'm still debating on it. I think they have a 50-50 chance of taking the Senate and a very, very good 70-80% chance of taking the House. And I would recommend it, people. I would recommend it. Right now, we're sitting on a $1.5 trillion of small business investment and major business investment that no one's touching because they don't know what the hell the Obama administration is going to do next. They don't have any idea what's going to come down the pike. And if there's only one rule that I know about the market, in the larger market, which, by the way, we just posted the very worst August since 2001. August is almost always a winning month. And all you guys that follow the market know that August is almost always a winning month. This time was the worst one we had. It fell, I think it was 6.5 points during the month of August, which is a very bad month. And this is all due to uncertainty, because that's what the market doesn't like. They don't care that if you tax them. I mean, they do care, but if you tax them and set these rules and say you're going to raise the tax on, say, capital gains 10%, they deal with it. They move the stuff out of stuff that would be capital gains, subject. So they'll go to something else. But they don't like is not knowing where the hell to put their money. So what do they do when they don't know what to do? They sit on it. They sit on the money. And right now we have a huge amount. If you put in a Republican Congress, right now, you just even in just the House, if you had that would put the brakes on some of this. It would cause business to look at it. And I'm not trying to be partisan here. I'm just telling you the truth. They'd look at it and they would say, okay, we know that there's not anything else that's going to come down the pike, very likely, and no matter what the situation is now, they would look at it as being final. They would adjust to it, and that $1.5 trillion of investment would come out, and maybe we can turn this damn economy around. So let's all think about that when we go to the polls, all right? All right, this hour went by incredibly fast. Good God. I want to thank all of you guys. I want to shout out to the people that came to the benefit concert that I had for my younger brother that died. Thank you guys, everybody that was out there. That was wonderful. And thanks for the support that I've gotten, from just everybody. I mean, family, friends, and everybody, man. Thank you guys all so much. I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I want to thank John Wilson. I want to thank Steve Myers for being crazy enough to put me on the radio. I still don't know what the hell you guys are thinking. I want to thank all you guys that take the time to watch me on the internet and everything else. I am the Hippie Conservative, Commander HipCon, your psychedelic alternative to pre-chewed political food. Thank you once again for spending your time, and you wasted another hour of your life, but you learned things, and that's important. Thank you very much, guys.